In the last few hours or maybe days, basically after the release of Laravel 8, there are, let's say, a lot of opinions, a lot of discussions about Jetstream. And even when I have been, let's say, in different sites of this specific project of basically after release of Laravel 8, there were a lot of changes. But I understand, and I'm going to try to offer a neutral position related to this, because yes, I understand all the points. I see you are the creator of Laravel, you worked and your team worked so hard on creating a product that you thought that all people would like. In fact, it looks like several people like this a lot, but of course, as usual, when you have a lot of public, an enormous quantity of people using your product, eventually you will have some, let's say, people that will don't love so much the decisions. That's good. That's healthy for the community. But I understand that you may get not much happy and you won't feel so good if basically people still complaining and giving only negative things about something that you created instead of highlighting the positive things. So what I'm going to do here is try to bring some light trying to use Jetstream at the first time. I have to clarify that this is the first time that I'm going to use Jetstream in any project. I used previously Laravel 8. I'm very aware of the differences between Laravel 7 and Laravel 8, but I never used Jetstream for anything in any project. So this is my first experience, and that is exactly what I want to bring to you and probably for Taylor if you want to check this. So this is the deal here. I'm going to try to basically use Jetstream following the documentation, and I'm going to try to customize something. For example, I'm going to try an additional field to the sign up or the register formulary saying that additionally from the name and the password and the email, we need a nickname or something like that. Just to verify how easy it is to customize it. I'm not going to deal with the CSS framework or something like that. This is only Tailwind, so we need to go with that. If you are not agree with using Tailwind or you prefer Jetstream to use Bootstrap, well, this is not the time yet. Maybe in the future, the Laravel team or even any other contributor, maybe any of us, any of you, is going to do it if, of course, the Laravel community or the Laravel team is agree with that. So let's start. We are going to create a Laravel project from scratch. I am on Windows, but of course, this is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to use Composer, create project. You already know how it is, Laravel/Laravel. And of course, we only need to specify something like Jetstream test. Whatever that you prefer is going to work. We are just going to verify that. So let's wait a few seconds while the process is done. And in the meantime, we can go to Laravel Jetstream to explore a little the documentation. Remember, this is on real time. I don't have any previous experience. At least I just checked some opinions, some discussions about this. So this is the first time that I'm checking all of this as usual, or well, not exactly as usual, but of course we have all what we need probably. So let's check it out. We have what is Laravel Jetstream. You probably already know this is related with the authentication, scaffolding you can obtain automatically just after installing and executing some commands. All what you need to authenticate your users, to get two-factor authentication, and so on. So let's explore more a little about this. We have two possible stacks. We probably already know that, which are Laravel, Livewire plus Blade, or Inertia.js plus Vue.js. That's all. So I probably will go with Livewire. I like it so much. I don't like so much, not Inertia. I don't like JavaScript so much. I use it. I create my projects when I need it. But as I have Livewire as an option, I will definitely go with this specific option. But of course, you are completely free to follow it with the corresponding variations if you prefer. I don't think this is going to change so much. So once the process maybe is done here, let's give it a little more time. We can try to verify what is the installation process. So we need to, of course, install Jetstream. There are different ways. We can use the Laravel installer. It looks passing the --jet parameter here, or we can use directly as we are doing here after creating the Laravel project with Composer, we can require Laravel/Jetstream as a dependency of our project. After we have that, we just need to install with a new set of commands of Jetstream with Jetstream install, and we are going to use Livewire. Remember, we had, of course, the option of using inertia, and eventually we can specify if we want the --themes option. It is going to create immediately all the possibilities to deal with themes as well. So this is exactly what we have to do. After that, we need to compile all the front-end stuff. In the case that you have inertia, probably related with inertia, and eventually with Vue.js. Okay, so probably at this point, we already have our Laravel project completely created and, let's say, downloaded by Composer. So let's try to open it on Sublime Text 3, as you can see here, and eventually we can go to the location of our project and obtain the dependency that we need for Laravel Jetstream. So let's to copy this, Composer require Laravel Jetstream, let's to put it there, and of course let's to wait a few seconds or maybe minutes depending on our system to install this specific dependency. Once again, we just need to go and after this install Laravel Jetstream in our project. That basically means obtaining probably some views, some configuration file, and so on. You can check it a few seconds after this, after we have the dependency into our project. So let's wait a few seconds. There is it. There you have the different dependencies that it has. We have Laravel 45, which is pretty interesting, as you can see. And of course, we can eventually use the same structure here, the same comment, and obtain Laravel Jetstream with the themes option, and of course using Livewire. So let's press enter here. Migrations created successfully. That's good. And let's check a little the differences respectively with the default structure of Laravel. So let's verify here. We are on database migrations, and then we have the regular users one. But as you can see here, additionally from the name, the email verified at the password, and I remember talking, we have now the current team ID, the profile photo path. So it looks like the users will have a profile photo. This is a text and can be nullable, so it is not mandatory. That's good. Then we have the regular migration for the passwords, for the password recovery or reset. We have now for the two-factor authentication, as you can see here, two-factor secret. We are going to put that after the password field. You can see this is modifying the user's table, so it is adding two-factor secret. It is adding the password just to make that a sort between the fields we have in the migration. And then we have the two-factor recovery code, which is going to be after this first one, and both of them could be nullable. Great. Now we have the created failed jobs, which is the regular one, personal access tokens, then we have themes, we have team user, and finally we have sessions. All of that comes automatically for us with, of course, Laravel Jetstream. All of that can be used. Of course, the themes table is to store the themes that we can create into our project. We have the personal access tokens. It looks like so the users can create their own tokens to use it through maybe an API or something like that. Of course, maybe that is in the documentation. So now, by following the instructions, the only thing that we have to do after installing Jetstream directly into our project, we need to run npm install. After that, we can run npm run dev. So let's do one by one. Npm install. As I am on Windows, this is not going to work with the ampersand. So we have npm install. This is, of course, as you may know, going to use the webpack.mix.js and eventually to compile. And of course, the dependencies are explored directly in the package.json. So in fact, as you can see, we have Tailwind UI, we have Axios, CrossAmp, Laravel Mix, of course, Lodash, Post CSS, URL Loader, and eventually Tailwind CSS as well. We have Tailwind CSS UI and the regular framework here. So that means that from UI, we can use some existing components already prepared and already designed. Again, I'm not very skilled with Tailwind CSS, so probably this is going to be very new for me as well. I don't have any problem with using Tailwind CSS. This is something that I probably need to learn, But again, if you are not familiar with it and for some reason you don't want to learn a new CSS framework, you can eventually adapt it, but probably not using Jetstream because it is going to give you a lot of work, maybe, but probably using, instead of that, directly an intermediate solution, which is Laravel 45. There you will have all the functionalities related with the authentication, and of course, this is going to provide you all the facilities to implement or create your own views, your own resources related, of course, with the authentication views to log in, to register, and so on. So once the process is done, as we can see here, we have some warnings, which is in fact regular here. So we can use npm run dep. This is probably, we'll need to install some additional dependencies. Let me to put it correspondingly, run dep, there is it. And now let's wait a little while it is get completely compiled. So let's wait a few minutes, or maybe seconds, in fact. And there we are. Now, following the instructions, the next thing is to execute the migration. So before of that, let's to configure a little the database. So I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm going to use SQLite and I'm going to use this. So let's to comment all of those parameters. And I am going to create the SQLite file. So we have by default database.sqlite. And that is where we are going to store our information. So after this, we can go back to our command prompt and execute php artisan migrate. There you have, we have the users table. We added the two-factor columns to our users table, the failed jobs, personal access tokens, and so on. The migration that we already know, of course, and you can see how it changed. Now, that means that if I go to the command prompt again and issue php artisan serve, we can probably get something working. So let's verify in the local host, in the port 8000. There we have the regular welcome view from Laravel, but we have the login and register. So if we go to login, that is it. We are definitely on Jetstream because we have this logo here. Of course, I don't have an account yet. This is not going to work. Let's to log in. That is it. There is not any problem, so we can register. There is not the register button over here, so let's to go back and go to register. Maybe something that we can improve a little in the layout that we can use to be sure that we always have access to login or register, or even the nav bar that we usually have. So this is going to be test@test.com, any password. Let's to confirm and let's go there. Maybe I just missed something out. So this is test. There you have the profile, API tokens, team settings, create new team, the team that we have for this specific user, and we can eventually log out. You can see you didn't specify any single line of code, and this is working now for you. Let's to log out because I want to verify something, because maybe I missed that from login we can eventually register, or no, this is not the case. Probably we could add a link here saying register or create a new account or something like that to don't force the users to go back, but probably we can add those specific same links in the same way as we have in the home view or the welcome view, in fact. So let's do log in again. We already have this information. Remember me, log in, and there we have. So this is exactly what we can do. We can go to the documentation, as you can see here, or go to Lotacast. You can verify the Tailwind documentation as well, and how it is the authentication and registration for the users. Now, continuing with this, we can explore a little the Jetstream structure. We already have some views, so we verify here, there is it, resources, views, and there is it. In the teams, we have, of course, all the views related to create a team, to delete a team, or so on. The same for the profile. All of that is created automatically for you. Pretty functional. And of course, we can go and eventually use the layouts. You can see for the authentication, for example, in the case of login, we are using the xguest layout. So if we check the xguest layout, this is exactly what we have. You can verify, pretty functional. And this is what is adding exactly from, of course, Alpine. You can see here, Alpine is, let's say, the best frame of Livewire. So we can use it as our JavaScript, let's say, framework to make some dynamic into our frontend. So if we go to register as well, we have basically the same ex-guest layout. So eventually for the things that come from a user that is not authenticated, we can use this as well. So eventually, if we want to add some, let's say, elements that we have in the welcome view, let's go to the register component. We have here login or even register. So let me copy this, and we want to show that only if the user is authenticated or not. So in fact, we can copy all of this. Let's go back to the layout of guest, and I'm going to try to make it working. So I'm going to duplicate this part. So if the user is authenticated, we can use the dashboard, or if the user is not authenticated, we can show the links to go to login or to register. Maybe this is not going to look so good. Let me to verify. We can refresh here and log out to get access to the guest layout. So we can go to login, and that is it. We have login and registered, but of course this is not looking so good. But probably we need to work a little with Tailwind here to get that looks very better, of course. But this is pretty functional. You can see I just modified that, but we need to verify how it is going to work depending on the CSS framework that you have. In this case, it is, of course, as you know, Tailwind, so we need to force that. If you want to verify, we can just go to the documentation of Tailwind. Remember, unfortunately for now, I'm not very skilled with Tailwind, but eventually that is perfectly possible by copying, pasting something, or eventually in the future, maybe Jetstream is going to have that, depending on basically the community. We don't need to rely all of this work in the Laravel team. We need to, make our own work and contributions to the project if we need it. So go ahead. If you really need it, try to talk with Taylor or the Laravel team in general, and they will eventually allow you to send a pull request, or even, like happens sometimes, they can do it very nice for you. That is going to depend. This is an open source project, so we can just verify and see how it goes. It is perfectly functional, and eventually we can try to make it working together. So let's modify some things. Remember, I tried to assign a new attribute, a new field for the users when registering. So if we go to register, we are going to add after the email the nickname. So let's modify this. This is now nickname. And I'm going to modify exactly this. We are going to prefer to use the block to obtain them. I guess this is margin top, the W full, and of course the time is going to be text, the name is going to be nickname, and in the case that we have an old value, there is it. And of course this is nickname. Now, once we have this, we need to add that to our migration. So let's go there. I'm just going to modify that directly. After the email, I'm going to have a string which is going to be nickname and should be unique as well. Perfect. And of course, we can go and do it directly in our models user. We can do it directly here, email, password, and here I'm going to have nickname. Doesn't matter so much the order here. We have the hidden, remember token, two-factor recovery codes. All of that is automatically modified for you. And now we need to verify in HTTP controllers. There is controller.php. So that means that it's not using controllers for the registering. So let's verify a little about how it is working. So we have already the installation, we have the details. If we can change the application logo, we don't need to go with this for now. So let's to check the authentication section. We have here introduction about Laravel 45. I just talked about that a little minutes ago. And let's see the views, the customizing the views rendering. We can eventually modify these. Pretty nice. I'm just going fast over this. We have actions in app actions 45, update service. Update user profile information. So it looks like we have an actions folder. So let me check. in fact, actions, Fortify, and Jetstream. So in the case of Jetstream, we have add team member, create team, delete user, update team name. It is not exactly what we need, but in Fortify, we have create new user, which is good. We regularly, with Laravel UI, had that in a registered controller or something like that, but it looks like it is now in an action, a simple action created called create new user. So probably this action is called directly to eventually register a user. So this is exactly what we have here. Before of that, we validate. So we have the name, the email, and the password. So I just need to add the nickname, which is required as a string, and a maximum of 255 characters. Perfect. Now, after this, we are creating a database transaction, pretty functional, to create the user with the name. Then we are going to have the email, then the nickname, which is going to come from the input nickname, which will come directly from the formulary that we modified previously. So I guess this is all. We don't need to modify the create team. So let's verify what we have. Of course, before of that, I'm going to refresh here. And there we have name, email, pretty functional. And now we need to run the migrations once again, the fresh ones, to get it working. So at this point, of course, our users table already has the nickname, so eventually we can do it. So we have test at test.com. The nickname is going to be testing. The password, any valid password. Once again, let's modify here the email. We can go to register. Page expired, of course. I just need to verify once again. Refresh, just to be sure. Once again, test at test. We need the nickname, testing, the password once again. And there we have. We basically modified that. We added just faster a new field to our registering steps. And eventually we go to Tinker. We can verify user all, and there we have, this is exactly the nickname that we just modified. So pretty functional. Of course, I know there are a lot of things that you may want to modify, a lot of things that you may want to customize, but eventually it does what it does. Basically, you can modify things if you prefer. Probably the part of dealing a little with, let's say, Tailwind. If you are not familiar with Tailwind, as I am, you are going to have, well, to spend a little time learning this. This is the way as it works, or you can try to work in different solutions. I know, probably the Laravel team can work on this if they want, if they prefer, if they find it useful. But we need to take into account that they are not forced to do anything that we need. They are basically maintaining an open source project. Laravel is an open source project. Jetstream is something additional from Laravel. So if you don't want to use it, you cannot use it if you prefer. It is going to depend on your projects. I know this is going to be very opinionated. There are a lot of different opinions. I respect all of them, but I understand. You try to pick a side and imagine that you are the creator of Laravel. Imagine that you are Taylor Odwell, and after working by months, expecting that people will like your project, people start complaining with, let's say, only the negative things instead of, well, trying to check the positive things. There are many positive things. We are saving a lot of time with this. So this is just a matter of time. Probably content creators like Jeffrey Wake, like Pablo Corrupt, maybe like me and many others for sure. The Laravel community is enormous, are going to start exploring this. And don't worry, probably after getting this fresh, after relaxing a little, this is going to improve and improve after the time. So let's recover the hope in the project. Let's don't lose our mind, because this is going to work. This is what we want. And eventually, after the time, if you want this to work a little different, you can create your own solution. And of course, try to speak through GitHub with a pull request or with an issue, or even through Discord with the Laravel team, and you will eventually get a probably solution. implementing the code by your own through a pull request, or eventually the Laravel team can help you to figure it out. I don't know. I'm just giving my opinion. It is going to depend on all of them because they are not forced to accept anything that we prefer. If it is not the case, well, we can eventually go back and create our own scaffolding, or eventually maybe in the future we can explore Laravel Fortify to get that from scratch for us, because remember, we have here all the Fortify actions, so we eventually can use and modify some of those according to our own views. That's all. See you in a following video.